Welcome into the Fight HQ podcast as we're here to break down UFC 290. Goes down tomorrow there in Las Vegas. We got 2 title fights, plus we've got some high prospects, both Nickal, Della, Maddalena. We're here to break it down for you. As always, appreciate you taking time out of your day to whether you're watching us live here on YouTube, maybe watch us after the fact, or listening to us on podcast platforms. We truly do appreciate it. Of course, if you're not subscribed to us on YouTube, be sure to do that. Hit that thumbs up button and let your friends know about what we got going on over here. Of course, as always, I'm joined by the fighter, Pete Rogers Jr. Good afternoon, Pete. How's it going, man?
Good afternoon, Jason. What's going on? We have a really good card. I'm looking forward to it from top to bottom, especially just the main card is pretty intriguing. So excited to break it down with you, see where you lie on some of these fights.
Yeah, man, this is going to be an interesting one to break down because there's a lot of fights that I want to prioritize this week. Of course, we do have our contest over on DraftKings. The link is in the description below. Congratulations to Sledge Daddy taking it down last week. I did see, Pete, you were somewhere. I think you were 7th.
Something like that. It's about time I'm closer to the top. I've been god awful in our contest, but every single week it's just been fun to see the community go out there and try to give it a go with their single entry lineup. And it was a weird week, right? Like last week was super strange. A lot of weird things happen. And every time you have upsets and volatile matchups, that's going to happen. It's going to be more of a GPP type of card than a single entry type of card. But that's when losing fighters still make it into the optimal lineup or a part of the winning lineups, a part of our contest. So I'm hoping less volatility this fight card. And that's probably the case given the extremely lopsided matchups that we do have in some of these fights.
Of course, we got our Discord channel totally free to join. If you want to ask a question, you can go in there. Or if you want to leave us a super chat, we'll get to all those super chats throughout the show. Of course, as always, we appreciate your support. Now, this is where we kind of talk about game theory. We got 14 fights here, Pete. And the first thing I have here on my list is fights to prioritize for GPP. I've got 5 fights. And I'm not sure how I'm going to create a group in terms of these 5 fights, but to me, the 5 fights that I am going to prioritize are the main event, co-main event, Jalin Turner, Dan Hooker, Niko Price, Robbie Lawler, Jimmy Crute, Alonzo Menifield.
Yeah, I'm with you with 4 of those. I don't know if the Robbie Lawler, Niko Price one falls into it. It does seem like you have 2 violent guys, going into a very dangerous fight in the welterweight division, but the other 4 you mentioned are prioritized fights, a part of my lineup construction. The main event, co-main event makes a ton of sense. Turner, Hooker, just given the violence of both guys and where Hooker's at within his career right now and how Turner's looking to be next level, I agree with that. And then, of course, the 8,200, 8,000 fight's going to be difficult to get away from week in and week out. Never mind a fight that these guys have already been in with each other, where Jimmy Crute in a draw scored 62, and we had Alonzo Menifield in a draw scoring 58. So I'm expecting fireworks once again, whether it's one-way traffic, I'm not sure, but regardless of it being one-way traffic or not, that's a fight I'm going to be prioritizing for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of those things of just I don't feel comfortable on either side because we saw what happened in the first fight. Obviously, we'll talk more about this when we break it down. But that to me is just a fight that how do you see it going? Do you think Jimmy Crute can be able to get those takedowns, or Alonzo Menifield, be able to keep this fight on the feet and potentially knock him out? But man, there's 14 fight card. When I was hand building the lineup for our Fight HQ contest, I would tell you when I got to player 5 and 6, that's where it became really tough for me.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, this is a really intriguing card because we have so many appealing 9,000 options, and it's given the ridiculous odds. Bo Nickal approaching a minus 3,000 to 1 favorite. It's ridiculous. JDM, short notice opponent, and similar to Bo Nickal, going to be over minus 1,000. Tatsuro Taira, short notice opponent, minus 1,000. So, and then you even still have minus 500, minus 400, minus 400, minus 400. It's ridiculous. So it's loaded at the top this week. And I do think it's going to be tough to create lineups with saving so much salary. You know what I mean? Because there's just so many appealing 9,000 options. I want to get to them. Imagine if you faded most, if not all, the 9,000 options. It really set yourself up for success. That'd be an extremely contrarian build, but I really don't recommend doing so on a week like this.
Oh, I mean, your contrarian build to me, I think first off starts off with getting away from the main event, co-main event. If you want to have a
100%.
very contrarian build, but the problem is like I could see Volk going out there and getting 130, 140 points based on being able to mix up striking and grappling. But I mean, but like I didn't even put Bo Nickal or Jack Della Maddalena. And I think a point to bring up in terms of those two guys and replacement opponents, these are the type of fights that the UFC is going to put together. I know Kyle Barallo, he was trying to get the matchup against Jack Della Maddalena. Chris Curtis was trying to get the fight as well. But, usually that comes with those guys looking for a big payday. That's where you get these up and coming guys and their chance to get in there because you know that yes, you're going to step up on short notice, but you're going to be able to come in and get another fight in that situation. But let's get right into breaking down these fights. Of course, main event is a unification matchup in the featherweight division. Alexandre Volkanovski, the champion, taking on the interim champion, Yair Rodriguez. Yair Rodriguez is a plus 290 betting underdog, minus 370 for Volk. Volk is 9,200 on DK, $20 on FanDuel. Yair, 7,000 on DK, $13 on FanDuel, Pete.
I love this fight, right? Like it's an extremely interesting fight within the featherweight division. Yair Rodriguez has proven to be dangerous within the division. He kicks like nobody in the sport right now, especially in the UFC. And his volume striking from the outside at distance, because of his long legs, sets him up for high scoring bouts. In addition to that, it frustrates his opposition because they can't really get inside. On the outside, I think Yair Rodriguez can beat most people. It's just if he allows his opponents to get inside that kicking range, I do think he's more human. And that's where Alex Volkanovski can really thrive. Get past the kicks, get past that range, step inside a little bit, turn this not necessarily into a phone booth fight, but get inside boxing range, let those hands fly. He has a great inside leg kick, so I do think that he can disrupt the rhythm of Yair Rodriguez. The price of 7,000 is extremely favorable if you think that he can go 25 minutes. In addition to that, whether he wins or loses, I think it's fine at 7,000. But on a week like this, when we have so many fighters and it's going to be a high scoring optimal, in my opinion, I do think that we need all winners. I don't foresee Yair Rodriguez winning the fight, but a stack could work potentially. I'm just going to stack in very, very small amount of lineups. Just given the violence of both guys, Yair Rodriguez is looking to be incredible, but I still have these memories of Yair Rodriguez getting taken down and just elbowed into oblivion, and that's kind of what I foresee happening here against Alex Volkanovski. I think Volkanovski will hurt him on the feet. We did see the Korean Zombie have success against Yair Rodriguez up until that last second beautiful that beautiful elbow knockout from, that was just a complete Hail Mary shot against the Korean Zombie in round 5. But I do think it's a high volume fight. I favor Alex Volkanovski heavily. The takedowns, just the entire MMA body of work, I think will be too much. Do I like the fact that he's just coming off of, experimenting at lightweight? Not necessarily. The weight cut could possibly diminish his skills a little bit. But it's Alex Volkanovski. We're talking about one of the best pound for pound fighters in the sport, if not the best pound for pound fighter in the sport. So yeah, 9,200. I think he's probably the safest 9,000 option out there as far as getting you 100 points. Does he have the most upside? I would say yes, because the 5 rounds to play with his food and just rack up a ton of points, a ton of takedowns, whatever. Yair is going to be ready and prepared, which could really boost the totals of Volkanovski. So yeah, I'm going to be siding with Volkanovski heavily here at 9,200. I like him a lot, and I'll be prioritizing this matchup one way or another.
And I don't blame anybody if their mindset is to stack this fight, whether you're talking about GPP or cash. I mean, obviously, I think you need a 25-minute fight, and I think you need to have Volk be able to go out there and get takedowns. That, to me, is the X factor in this matchup. And and to me, it becomes of what is the range that Yair can keep this fight at. I mean, you can talk about this because this is your game of that kickboxing range and being able to throw those unorthodox strikes.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's all about the distance management of Alex Volkanovski. Certain fighters will be okay with accepting being on the outside, and then they don't really adjust. The thing with, pound for pound fighters, best pound for pound fighters out there, is they're going to make on the fly adjustments. And that's where Alex Volkanovski is going to thrive. He's probably going to get picked apart on the feet at distance for a little bit. And then you're going to see him make an adjustment in the game and see what starts to work. And then he's going to get inside of those kicks. At range, obviously the longer legs of Yair Rodriguez, they're going to come into play. And he has to be very, very careful of the flying knees, the flying kicks, the head kicks, the body kicks, and the flying knees up the middle for a shorter Alex Volkanovski are going to be, very, very dangerous. And he has to be very careful and mindful of those. So I just think that Alex Volkanovski is just such a smart fighter and that he's going to have a game plan for Yair Rodriguez. But if you told me that Yair head kick knocks him out, there's nobody out there that has better head kicks inside the featherweight division. So I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I mean, I think in terms of cash, Yair will be a core play for me just because I do think that this fight's going to hit the 4th or 5th round. And I like what that, that floor could be for him in terms of also being able to get through some of these. I mean, we mentioned we have 8, 9K options this week. It'd be interesting to see once the fights are over, how many of those fighters do get into the optimal lineup. By the way, a little note, Jalin Turner has missed weight. He's missed weight by 2 pounds, and the UFC has already come out and said that he is not going to attempt to cut any more weight. I mean, look, Jalin Turner is a massive dude at 155 pounds. I mean, dude is, he's one of those guys that he's stuck in between 2 weight classes.
Yeah.
If there was a 165 weight class, he would be perfect for that weight class. He's just not. He just at 170, those guys just tower over him. But we'll get into that fight here in a little bit. Of course, the co-main event will be the trilogy matchup between Brandon Moreno and Alexandre Pantoja. Of course, Pantoja has won the first 2 meetings. The first meeting coming on the Ultimate Fighter. Second meeting was a decision win back in 2018. Pantoja, of course, challenging Moreno here for the flyweight title. Pantoja, a plus 175 betting underdog, minus 210 for Brandon Moreno. Brandon Moreno is $8,700 on DK, $18 on FanDuel. Pantoja, $7,500 on DK, and $12 on FanDuel, Pete.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a very pivotal fight for the slate. Flyweight, title fight between Brandon Moreno and Alexandre Pantoja. Tons of activity and a lot riding on this matchup. Obviously the belt, but also more than that, it's just it's the 3rd time they've met. And, we have seen fighters, struggle against certain styles of fighters. And I do think that Brandon Moreno against Alexandre Pantoja there was a gap in skill because of the immaturity of Brandon Moreno at the time. Over the past couple of years, we have seen Brandon Moreno really flourish and start to turn into a next level athlete. I mean, the last time that they fought was back in 2018. And, there are competitive moments in there. They know each other really well, but I do think that Brandon Moreno has hit a different level since he fought Deiveson Figueiredo 4 times. So I do think that in preparation for Figueiredo, the experience in fighting Figueiredo, who's very, very dangerous and similar to Pantoja from a very dangerous power puncher and submission artist, it's prepared Brandon Moreno for an opportunity like this to really get a win over a guy who has 2 against him already. So I think the most popular chalk underdog is going to be Alexandre Pantoja. I get it. He's beaten Brandon Moreno twice in the past. He is a very dangerous submission artist. He punches a little robotically. He has power, but I do think that there is a little bit more finesse with Brandon Moreno. And I don't know. I just have this feeling that Brandon Moreno is going to have an answer for Alexandre Pantoja this time around. I understand the ownership and everybody getting to Alexandre Pantoja. And at 7,500, you can really make a case for him more so than some other underdogs, just given some of the big lopsided fights. We've already seen him do it twice. Why can't he do it a 3rd time? But yeah, I'm actually going to be siding with Brandon Moreno here at 8,700. I like him. I like what I've seen over these past couple fights against Deiveson Figueiredo. I think it's going to prepare him for an opportunity like this to finally get a win over Alexandre Pantoja.
I'm on the other side on this one. I like Pantoja, and I like Pantoja to win this via submission. I mean, the one thing that always concerns me about Brandon Moreno is he's going to take chances in matchups, and sometimes it's going to work, but it always seems like every fight he finds himself in adversity, and I think that if Pantoja can get this one to the mat, that's where his best chance to win this fight. But if you tell me this is on the feet, yeah, I think it's Brandon Moreno's fight to lose. I will say, looking at ownership projections, I know a lot of people, when we're talking about on the FanDuel slate or even on the captain contest, Volkanovski, Bo Nickal, Jack Della, Maddalena are going to be fighters that people are going to be attacking. I think this is the potential fight to attack from an MVP aspect just to get away from ownership.
Yeah, I like that for that type of slate. That makes sense. And also it's just the division, flyweight division. The cardio, the activity, the scrambles, the points. You know what I mean? It's just like points galore sometimes. Um, and I do think that Pantoja is going to try to come out there and bully Brandon Moreno and remind him of what's happened in the past.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what that can do is that can actually result in more points in Brandon Moreno kind of answering the bell. And it just going to be one of the best fights. I wouldn't mind stacking the co-main event either, to be honest. I kind of view it the same as I view the main event. Underdogs are hard to come by this week, in my opinion. I've tried to convince myself to get behind certain fighters, and it makes sense to not get to those underdogs. It does make sense to get to Pantoja from a value standpoint, and we've also seen him do it 2 times already. So I don't hate your call at all by going with Pantoja, but I'm sided with Brandon Moreno.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is going to be one of those weeks. It's a matter of, do we get at least three underdogs in the optimal lineup? I mean, you know how this fight game goes. Sometimes surprises there happen. Next up, we have got essentially a kind of a title eliminator matchup in the 185-pound division. Robert Whittaker taking on Dricus du Plessis. Du Plessis is a plus 300 betting underdog, minus 380 for the former champion. And Whittaker 9,100 on DK, $17 on FanDuel. Du Plessis is 7,100 on DK, $12 on FanDuel.
I think this is a dangerous fight for Robert Whittaker, right? It really is, but I know that he understands how dangerous Dricus du Plessis is. I think certain fighters can overlook their opposition, and that's where you can fall victim to a hot prospect kind of taking you out of the rankings or taking your spot. I do think that Robert Whittaker is the next best thing within the division, and he's proven that time and time again. He is a fantastic fighter. Very cerebral fighter, great striking. I don't necessarily like the hands down approach against a power puncher, but he does have some finesse and some just good footwork and skills all around. So I just think that, he's on a completely different level than Dricus du Plessis is from a technical standpoint, but sometimes the most technical fighters don't win. It comes down to just a one big moment. And Dricus du Plessis is a moment fighter where out there he can blitz Robert Whittaker and catch him cold or catch him just, being a little gun shy. And next thing you know, Dricus du Plessis, priced at 7,100, breaks the slate because he's a powerful guy. Very powerful guy. Some of it a cardio liability. And I just think the pace, the distance, the range management, and the well-rounded skill set of Robert Whittaker, it makes sense that he's a heavy favorite. But you have to be careful here because, like I said, he has been susceptible to big power shots in the past. But if you look at his entire body of work, Robert Whittaker is an absolute stud. I'm expecting him to win another decision here against Dricus du Plessis. I don't mind getting to Robert Whittaker here at 9,100. Obviously, I would prefer spending a little bit more and getting to Alex Volkanovski because he has 5 rounds to work with. But I do think that Robert Whittaker is in a very intriguing spot here against Dricus du Plessis. So from a GPP underdog standpoint, I'm going to get the du Plessis because of the big moments and how if he wins, he probably scores well. But everything I've seen up until this point shows me that he's going to just kind of stall a little bit against the guy on Robert Whittaker's level.
The one concern you have with du Plessis is the cardio. We've seen it. We all know that he got his nose fixed. I'm not going to believe his cardio isn't fixed until I see it actually inside the octagon. To me, he's very live for the first 7.5 minutes, but I just look at the potential takedown upside of Robert Whittaker in this matchup when we're talking about a fantasy score aspect. And, to me, when we're looking at these 9,000 options and, you're going to be looking at the ownership of all these 9,000 options, and I'm looking at Robert Whittaker going, that to me is a leverage spot, and he has the takedown upside. And let's just remember, since 2014, the only man he's lost to is the champion. 2014, Pete.
Yeah, he's nasty. He's absolutely incredible. And that's what I'm saying. Like, Robert Whittaker is one of these other cerebral, pound-for-pound fighters out there who's going to, just pivot on the fly, make adjustments. And if he gets hit with a big shot against Dricus du Plessis, or he sees a hole in Dricus du Plessis, he's really going to go out there and exploit it. we've seen Whittaker lace up his wrestling shoes in the past and have tremendous success, attempting 10, 13 takedowns. Obviously, some of those are 5-round bouts, but I expect him to just be the better, well-rounded mixed martial artist in this bout. Dricus du Plessis he hasn't had success defending takedowns, only defended 2 takedowns in the UFC. Usually he can bull rush his way into takedowns himself. But yeah, it's going to be a Robert Whittaker pick for me. Dricus du Plessis, go out there, prove me wrong. I'll still have exposure to you, but it's a Whittaker play.
Yeah, 2+Cs, I don't mind getting into it in terms of GPP. I kind of want to see where ownership kind of evolves with du Plessis. And I mean, look, when you look at this matchup, if du Plessis goes out there, gets the win, and he walks out of the fight uninjured, he's likely fighting Izzy in the beginning of September. If Robert Whittaker wins, then Sean Strickland steps up. And I was actually watching a little bit of Sean Strickland on the Joe Rogan podcast, and what was kind of fascinating was he was talking about his fight last week, and he said he pretty much knew very early on in that fight that he's like, this guy don't got it. And he also mentioned the point of how this fight came together. He said, he goes, I'm sparring Martin Vittori. His manager is in the gym, sees it, and then magically 3 weeks later, I get this fight offer to fight one of his other fighters.
Huh? Well, that's bad management because he got his butt whooped. Strickland looked absolutely incredible. I would imagine that there is some shuffling of the cards throughout the division after this fight, and I wouldn't mind seeing like a Dricus against Jared Cannonier. Cannonier looked incredible the other weekend.
Mm-hmm.
I just would like to see Strickland fight the champ, just kind of it's new blood within the division, a new opportunity. But I do think that this fight means a lot for the division, and Whittaker's kind of just he's the next best guy in my opinion. So he's kind of going to go out there and prove his value for the division, and he's a tough out. And especially if you have to fight him in a 3-round fight, good luck. You know what I mean? Good luck. He's used to fighting 5 rounds where he can just, methodically break you down. I think the pacing of Whittaker in 15 minutes is going to be ridiculous.
Mention some comments over on YouTube from Alan. He says, fading DDP in large field GPPs at current ownership, I'm seeing 20 max at least. I wouldn't fade him just because of if he does go out there and get the win, I think you're looking at 85, 90 points, because it's going to be a stoppage. Brian says, he goes, you think Whittaker scores high enough to pay off his price tag in a win compared to the other 9,000 guys? Look, I think if he's able to utilize that takedown, you can look at someone like a Bo Nickal, potentially quick win bonus, but Bo Nickal's also $700 more than Robert Whittaker. Yeah. So to me, it's more of how are you constructing your roster if you're not getting to, say, Robert Whittaker, and let's just say you're going to a Cameron Samon at 9,400. Who is a guy I really like, and we'll talk about that later on in the show. To me, it just becomes a roster, but to me, what I really like about Whittaker is A, the takedown upside, and B, what we're seeing in ownership right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. Do I know if he's going to score well? No, I wouldn't necessarily bank on him scoring better than some of these other 9,000 options. They have a much greater chance of finishing inside the distance than Robert Whittaker does. But Robert Whittaker has the opportunity to rack up takedowns, beat the brakes off of Dricus du Plessis, or take him to takedown city. So I think that there is significant potential there at his given ownership and price to do almost as well as some of these other 9,000 options. I wouldn't say he's the safest. I think that he's the most contrarian 9,000 option out there, one of the, and I'm okay with just taking that approach and getting to him a little bit more than the masses.
Let's move over. Next up, we got Jalin Turner taking on Dan Hooker. Of course, I just mentioned a couple minutes ago, Jalin Turner is not going to make weight, 2 pounds over the weight limit here at lightweight. He is a minus 280 betting favorite, taking on Dan Hooker, who's plus 230. Turner, 8,800 on DK, $17 on FanDuel. For Dan Hooker, he's 7,400 on DK and $13 on FanDuel.
I like both of these guys. I'm a fan of both of these guys. I'm not a fan of how much damage Dan Hooker has taken throughout his career. And he seems to be okay with taking damage. He really engages in firefights almost every single time he's out there. And for being so technically skilled, he's dropped that technical advantage over a lot of people by just biting down on the mouthpiece and engaging in a war. You can go back and look at that Dustin Poirier fight, and ever since then, it's just seemed like, he's lost a step. He's taken so much damage in that fight and every fight since that a step up against Jalin Turner, who's one of the hottest fighters out there and arguably beat Mateusz Gamrot. He's in for a very tough fight. Is it possible that Dan Hooker beats Jalin Turner in a kickboxing fight? Yes, absolutely possible. I don't think he's going to out-grapple Jalin Turner. I think that Dan Hooker is solid in the wrestling and grappling department, but I just think that Turner is just as equally as dangerous and more powerful. And outside of Jalin Turner getting starched in his debut to Vicente Luque, who's an absolute monster at welterweight, we've seen Jalin Turner do just fine within the lightweight division. And I'm going to be siding with Jalin Turner here. I agree with the ownership. I just think that Dan Hooker doesn't look right, and it's been a while since he's looked right. Yes, he's coming off that nice performance against Claudio Puelles, super one-dimensional athlete, guy who just is okay with accepting bottom positions, hunting for leg locks and knee bars especially. Dan Hooker looked good in that fight. I just, unless there's some injury that Jalin Turner is masking, and that's the reason why he missed weight, or he had a horrible weight cut and is going to go out there and be a shell of himself, I'm expecting Jalin Turner to kind of cut right through Dan Hooker, and it's going to be sad to see. But I think that Turner's just got too much for Hooker.
Yeah, I mean, the question ultimately look, he's a massive 155er, cuts a ton of weight to make the weight. You do kind of do wonder, maybe has something, is there an injury, or did ultimately just come down to a decision the team say, you know what, we're not going to cut these final 2 pounds. Let's just get on the scale. Let's have the managers do the negotiation and go from there. But look, it's a fight that I think you have to prioritize on both sides. And if you're playing multi-entries, you got to have some sprinkles of Dan Hooker in there, because Dan Hooker could potentially be able to catch him with something. Next up, we got the opening fight of the pay-per-view. Bo Nickal taking on Val Woodburn. Of course, so Woodburn stepping up here on fight week to take this fight. He is a 1,300 underdog. Bo Nickal minus 2,800. Nickal 9,800 on DK, $23 on FanDuel. Woodburn 6,400 on DK, $7 on FanDuel. And I'll tell you something that me and Pete were talking about before the show is you do wonder if this is one of those fights that we see potentially Bo Nickal and his team say, let's get some cage time in.
Oh yeah. I mean, like this is crazy. I don't like the odds. I think that it's absolutely ridiculous for somebody to be that heavily favored over anybody, especially a guy who's green within mixed martial arts. I understand Bo Nickal's wrestling pedigree is just on a completely different level. He's absolutely incredible in the wrestling department, but this is MMA. You can humanize wrestlers at times if you're able to stuff some takedowns and punish them on the feet, or catch them with a knee as they're coming in, and make them strike a little bit longer than they're accustomed to. I think that the price tag's warranted because of the potential, not necessarily from a quick win bonus, but from a 15-minute wrestling I think seminar. I really think that he can go out there and just show to be on a completely different level. Could he get Woodburn out of there with a submission relatively quickly? Sure. He's done it to most people. But I do think that Val Woodburn's not bad. He's a power puncher, which is going to be pretty easy to duck under and time a takedown. I'm going to still get the Val Woodburn. I'm telling you right now, just because this is MMA and anything happens, and I'm going to get to him a small amount, just like my strategy this week is I'm getting to almost everybody, because I'm struggling to find underdogs, and I know somebody's going to pop off, and I'm going to just plant my flag on some of the fighters that I feel really confident in. For me, it's Volkanovski. And in addition to that, I like Brandon Moreno a lot this week. So I'm going to be mixing and matching other fights and other fighters that nobody's giving a shot, and they're all writing, somebody off. I'm not as high on Bo Nickal as most people. Like I expect him to be really good within the division, But I don't think that he's going to be this undefeated guy forever. I think he's going to meet his match. I don't think it's Woodburn. I think he's going to go through Woodburn. But I think Bo Nickal, there's still a lot within his MMA game we haven't seen because of his dominance. So I understand the price tag, but from just a contrarian standpoint, I'd be fine with getting away from him, just given the other amazing 9,000 options. He's easily the highest favorite on the card. But yeah, I mean, outside of getting caught with something, he should go out there and just wax Woodburn from a wrestling and MMA standpoint.
Appreciate the super chat from Liker. He said, says, is Bo Nickal a good striker at all? It's an unknown.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really think he is. But he doesn't necessarily have to be. You know what I mean? He doesn't have to be, because he just has to threaten the thought of the takedown and then an overhand left, as evidenced on the Contender Series. You know, that was all she wrote. It led to a finish, you know, and he hops on the neck of all of his dropped opponents, or all of his opponents that are taken down. Very opportunistic grappler. I'm expecting him to have no problem with Woodburn here, but I just got a bad feeling that one of these days we're going to see Bo Nickal get knocked out badly. I just don't think that Woodburn's the guy.
Yeah, I mean, you look at what Price picks, the significant strike number on Bo Nickal is 10.5, and you go, wow, that's a really low number. He hasn't landed 10 strikes in a UFC fight. So, you kind of, it's one of those fights that I just wonder, from a coaching aspect, are they saying, let's get some work in. Let's get some work in. But, yep. I mean, he might take him down in 20 seconds and finish him within a minute. I mean, I think to me, if you're rostering Bo Nickal, I think part of your thought process has to be quick finish bonus.
Quick finish is tough, though, because he's got a minute to work with. Could it happen? Absolutely. But if he doesn't, he busts that price tag all day long, unless it's a 15-minute, drag him out, takes him down 10 plus times. I think it's possible. And if I was the coaches, that's probably what I would say. Guys stepping up on short notice, take the threat out of it, wrestle early, wrestle often, then come round 2 or later round 1, maybe even round 3. He's going to be a sitting duck to anything you want to do on the feet. And maybe that's where he starts to look a little bit like Colby Covington, more volume striking into whatever he wants. You don't want to see that amateur type of sprinting all the time. You know what I mean? Because it's not going to be able to translate against the top guys in the world.
I will say this, and we're going to talk about this fight a little bit later on. In a 1v1 situation, I'd probably rather get to Taira than Bo Nickal and save the $200.
Ooh, I don't know about that. I think I disagree with you, but I'm interested to hear how you have to say that.
Yeah, and maybe that's because I'm super high on Bo Nickal, and look, it's a huge question mark of what he is on the feet. But Taira, he gets on your back, it's over, and it's one of those things of trying to look at when you're comparing fighters of the fantasy score upside and thinking, okay, if Taira gets a 1 takedown, maybe 2 takedowns, and he racks up some points control, where then he might be able to outlast. I mean, look, you if you're putting Bo Nickal in your lineup, you got to be hoping for 125 points.
Oh, all day long. You need it.
Yeah. So next up, we've got the retirement matchup, or retirement, because we know we never believe those words. Pete, when you tell me you're retired, I'm going to say, bullshit, you ain't retiring. We've got Niko Price taking on Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler, of course, retirement matchup for him. He's a plus 190 betting underdog, minus 230 for Niko Price. Niko, 8,900 on DK, $16 on FanDuel. And for Robbie Lawler, he's 7,300 on DK and $12 on FanDuel.
Yeah, so all week, I've been staring at this card, trying to come up with underdogs that I want to get behind, and it's a struggle for me personally. So if I wasn't back in Pantoja, where the hell am I going to find an underdog? I'm worried about Niko Price knocking out Robbie Lawler. I have to be honest. Niko Price is dangerous and can knock out anybody that he's up against. He has that crazy power, that freaky type of power, some super weird, unorthodox wins, hammer fist from the bottom, super strange guy, very volatile fighter. A lot of people thought that he was going to get rid of Donald Cerrone, and that was going to be a very violent finish. But that turned out to be a draw. He scored 64 fantasy points in that fight. That was 3 years ago now, but since then he's fought Michel Pereira, Alex Oliveira, and Phil Rowe. In every single one of these fights, there are numerous moments of him losing, right? He's always in a tough fight, and then sometimes he pulls himself out from the jaws of defeat, or his opponents just do enough and then they get rid of him. With it being a close fight, it makes me side with the underdog in Robbie Lawler, who's had, more experience. He's seen it all, done it all. I don't like it when a guy has like 1 foot in, 1 foot out. But there's also a point where if somebody knows and they're okay with the idea of retiring, then they want to go out on a good note, obviously, and they're going to give it their all. So I'm going to be siding with Robbie Lawler here to win. I don't know if he knocks out Niko Price. He has the power and the skills to do so. He is somewhat of a punching bag at times and rolls with punches a little bit too much for my liking. I'd rather him counter or be aggressive. Perhaps we see ruthless Robbie Lawler return to form here. It's been quite some time. And if you look at both of their records, hideous records as of late, it makes sense from a fight on paper. But as far as like experience and legacy, Robbie should have rode off into the sunset with that Nick Diaz performance. Ryan Barberena went out there and just kind of, was so aggressive that Lawler couldn't really get anything going. But yeah, I'm going to be siding with Lawler here, despite all the negative things I just said. I think that there's equally negative things with Niko Price, and he is much younger than Robbie Lawler from a career standpoint. So for him to be taking as much damage as he has already, it's completely worrisome for me. So I'll be siding with the experience of Robbie Lawler at 7,300, but I don't feel good about it.
Yeah, I don't feel good about either side of this matchup. I just, for whatever reason, I feel like this is a fight that potentially does end up optimal. Appreciate another super chat from Liker. He goes, random, but when you fight again, Pete, I want to support my guy Pete and watch you get another TKO. There's a lot of discussion going on about when that can take place. I'll tell you that. And then Scott, saying if Pete has another fight, you need a replacement for a few weeks. Jason, look, me and Pete did a show the night before his fight when he lied to me about what his game plan was going to be.
That is true. When I fought for Bellator, Jason flew up and we did a live show literally right after I weighed in. And then went out there and won. And then it was cool. So we still got the show on. It takes me away from, what's about to happen. It's like a nice distraction, just keeping things normal. But yeah, Jason's seen videos. Jason knows I'm training my butt off. It's just trying to figure out which promotion, what I'm doing. And there's a lot going on within the entire landscape of MMA. So trying to figure out something that makes sense.
Maybe we should just get you up to Alaska FC.
I'm with it. I tell you, give me a title fight right away.
Good Lord. Well, we're going to talk about Alaska FC later on. Good Lord, that is a bad regional show. Oh, my God. I mean, oof. That's a bad one. But let's move over to our next match. We got Jack Della Maddalena taking on Josiah Harrell. Josiah Harrell stepping up here just on a couple of days' notice. He is a 6-1 betting underdog, and Maddalena a 9-1 betting underdog. Maddalena 9,700 on DK, $21 on FanDuel, and Josiah is 6,500 on DK and $9 on FanDuel. Pete.
Yeah, I mean, Josiah Harrell's talented. He really is. He's good. He's very good. Has some power in the hands, but it's his wrestling that is the difference maker. But he's a lightweight, so stepping up on short notice against one of the most impressive welterweight contenders out there, and I'm going to say contenders because I have high hopes for Jack Della Maddalena. JDM is a guy that I've told you since his debut, and I've told everybody if you've been a long-time listener, I labeled him as one of the prospects that I have been absolutely impressed with, and that a guy I can see contending for the title, if not winning the belt. I have him in the same category as Hamza Chimaev, Jack Della Maddalena, Tom Aspinall. Those are the guys that I've backed super, super heavy. I used to be a big Romanov guy, but I kind of hopped off the bandwagon and picked Volkov to beat him, and, I was correct with that. But JDM is a guy that I hold in such high regard for the welterweight division. Excellent striker, goes to the body better than anybody out there in the game. Josiah Harrell's good. He's very good, but he's a lightweight. He's going to be undersized. And when JDM's been in preparation for this fight, it's been against Sean Brady, who is going to be looking to do the same thing, if not better, absolutely better than Josiah Harrell, and that's take JDM down. So I know that, historically, if you go back and you watch Della Maddalena's regional career, that people have success if they can get him down. Mm-hmm. Obviously, he's a fantastic striker, so he's not dangerous when he's on his back. I just think that, Harrell is going to be outgunned. He could pull off the upset, absolutely, by banking some rounds at 6,500. he could be one of those guys that gets numerous takedowns and perhaps does enough in a loss to do enough, but kind of reminiscent to Stephen Kozlow, months and months and months ago, where against Cameron Simon, he got like 60 points in a loss or something because he had numerous takedowns and control time. That could be a way to get different, is just punting to a guy whose path to victory is getting takedowns. But I just foresee Jack Della Maddalena being too much and getting a TKO in round 2 against Josiah Harrell. So thank you for stepping up on short notice. Josiah Harrell should have some success inside the UFC, but not against Jack Della Maddalena.
And this is how a lot of guys get their opportunities. It's stepping up on 5-6 days notice to take these matchups. You put yourself in a great situation, and we'll see if Harrell can utilize that grappling. If he can, it does make him a little bit of an interesting underdog. Next up, we got a female matchup as Yazmin taking on Gomes. Yazmin is a minus 380 betting favorite, plus 300 for Gomes. Yazmin 9,300 on DK, $18 on FanDuel, and Denise is 6,900 on DraftKings and $11 on FanDuel. Pete.
Yeah, so I mean, this is an interesting fight, right? We have, kind of crazy odds for how I see this fight going. I do think that Yazmin Jauregui is talented and she's the more technical fighter. I don't like where the odds are sitting just because of, Jauregui is super technical doesn't mean that she doesn't engage into a firefight, and doesn't mean that this could be a competitive kickboxing fight between Denise Gomes and Jauregui. So I'm going to be siding with the value here at 6,900. Um, it's an ugly play. I don't like it, but I have to pick some underdogs, and I can actually see Denise Gomes doing enough on the feet, hitting Jauregui with a big shot and hurting her. We did see Yazmin take a big shot against Estela Nunes, who I am not high on at all, and she was dropped in round 1. She came back and scored 129 points, but it didn't look good early. And I do think that Denise Gomes showed that she throws absolute bombs against Bruna Brazil. And she's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt who's been competing in grappling tournaments as well. So she went 3 of 3 in the takedown department with a knockdown, almost 4 minutes of control time against Bruna Brazil. Do I think she has that type of success against Yazmin? No. But do I think it's close enough to make me side with the value? Yes. So of all the 9,000 options, Yazmin Jauregui is my least favorite. I don't like the price. I don't like the odds. So it's going to make me pick Denise Gomes here to pull off the upset at 6,900. It's women's MMA, super volatile, should be closer than this.
Scott, I appreciate your super chat. He goes, I see 12 lopsided fights besides the main event and co-main event. Who do you think has the best chance for an upset? I think there's several good contenders out there. Some of the fights that we've already talked about, to Plessis, Lawler. And I don't mind the Gomes call either.
Yeah, I'm going to go Lawler and Gomes just from like should the odds be as far apart as they are? You know what I mean? And that's how you can sometimes find value. And that's kind of how I'm looking at this slate. And I would be going after Gomes and Lawler, just getting a little bit more than the public. You don't have to go and lock them in. But if you get, double than what the public has, guess what? You're going to have a great opportunity to have the correct combination.
Next up, we got a rematch here. That was a majority draw the last time they met up. That is Jimmy Crute and Alonzo Menifield. Jimmy Crute, a minus 135 betting favorite, plus 115 for Alonzo Menifield. $8,200 on DK for Crute. He's $15 on FanDuel. And then for Menifield, he's $8,000 on DK and $13 on FanDuel, Pete.
Yeah, I don't think anybody knows what the hell is going to happen in this fight, to be honest. It was a ridiculous fight between Jimmy Crute and Alonzo Menifield in their first encounter. Resulted in a draw because of a point deduction. Menifield scoring 58 in the draw, and Jimmy Crute scoring 62 in the draw. Both of the guys had significant success against each other. Jimmy Crute's a guy similar to Niko Price, where relatively young for their careers, for how much damage they've taken. I don't like seeing that, or backing guys. Yes, he has a significant grappling edge. Yes, he could take Alonzo Menifield down and submit him. We did see him take him down and have, great moments. He went 6 of 12 in the takedown department, almost 8 minutes of control time. But every moment that he wasn't in control, Alonzo Menifield was moments away from stopping the fight. So I do think that Alonzo Menifield, hits so damn hard and proved that he can stuff some takedowns. it's a super volatile fight, right? Like flip a coin. I don't know who's going to win the fight. I'm going to be siding with the value of Alonzo Menifield. Less damage on his body. I think that with a couple adjustments, he can improve upon his last performance. And I do think that he can get Jimmy Crute out of there this time. But on the flip side, I can also see a world where Jimmy Crute finally lands a takedown. It breaks Menifield's spirit, and then he gets a submission finish. But I'll be siding with Alonzo Menifield. I think that he's, it's a pick 'em, so it's a slight underdog. But to me, it's, one of the best fights to target from a high upside standpoint.
Yeah, I mean it's a priority fight for me. I mean, I'm going to have several groups over in Cruncher, and this is going to be a big part of those groups I do build here. I do side with Jimmy Crute just because of that takedown upside, but I want to get to Menifield as well. I mean, I think I will be over the field in terms of what we're seeing in terms of ownership this time. Next up, we got Taira taking on Edgar. Taira is a minus 1,000 betting favorite, plus 650 for Edgar. Taira, 9,600 on DK, $21 on FanDuel, and for Edgar, he's 6,600 on DK and $9 on FanDuel. Should note this is a catch weight of 130 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, I love Tatsuro Taira for the division. I think that Edgar Chairez, he's got good hands, and I do think that he's dangerous. But I just think that Tatsuro Taira is just going to be a little too much for him. I didn't think that Chairez looked all that great on the scale, and I understand it's at a catch weight, but when I looked at him on the scale, I was like, ooh, he don't look good. But that's my personal perception. And Tatsuro Taira, up until this point, has looked everything, like a prospect should. Carlos Candelario went out there, proved that he can go 15 minutes, 96 points. CJ Vergara and Jesus Aguilar, 106 and 103 points, respectively. So I like Tatsuro Taira here at 9,600. He's an excellent back taker. And whenever you have a specialist in taking backs, you're going to have my attention. I think that Edgar Chairez is going to leave an opportunity to get taken down and get choked out. But, he has power. And Tatsuro Taira, he's developing his striking. His striking isn't bad. It's basic. But, there, at some point, he's going to be met with somebody who can stuff a takedown or be just as threatening in the submission department, where it becomes more of a kickboxing fight. And then I'll like to see how he performs in that fight. But I don't think that Edgar Chairez is the guy to do it. I'm siding with Tatsuro Taira here at 9,600. I think that, just like many of the 9,000 options, he's an excellent choice.
Yeah, I mean, and to me, what I love about Taira is that ability to get on your back. And if and that's where, looking at these high 9,000 options of trying to look at that fantasy score upside of how he could rack up some points with the grappling. So we'll see what happens there. Next, we got another 9,000 fighter. That'd be Petrino taking on Prachnio. Prachnio is a 2-1 betting underdog, minus 240 for Petrino. Petrino, 9,000 on DK, $16 on FanDuel. And Prachnio is 7,200 on DK, $13 on FanDuel.
I mean, Prachnio is a guy I haven't really been high on at all. I thought William Knight was going to get rid of him, but William Knight decided not to throw anything in that fight. I think single-digit significant strikes or something ridiculous like that. So Marcin Prachnio, a guy that, he's tricky just because he throws things from odd angles, and he's always live to land a head kick or a knee up the middle or a powerful shot. Everybody within this division is super powerful, so he could close his eyes and land something on Vitor Petrino, who's defensively irresponsible at times, but more dangerous than Marcin Prachnio. I'm going to be siding with Vitor Petrino here. I think that he gets this fight done however he wants. I think that he gets rid of Marcin Prachnio. Against Anton Tokali, we did see him lace up his wrestling shoes, attempt 9 takedowns, was successful with 7 of them, defended 10 takedowns, reversed 4 positions, had 6 minutes of control time. So I loved what I saw from Vitor Petrino in a 15-minute contest, because up until that point I had questions, and now he's really answered everything that I was curious about. He has excellent power. He has a very solid ground game. I think he's going to beat Marcin Prachnio however he wants. And I do think it's going to happen via TKO. So Vitor Petrino, save some money, spend up at 9,000. I think that he's an excellent inside the distance play. Prachnio can win a decision, sure. He did it against another dangerous guy in William Knight, but that was largely due to Knight not doing anything. I think the most impressive thing is the Khalil Roundtree fight, where he won and scored 71 fantasy points. And that kind of blew me away too, because, Khalil's looked next level at times, but super inconsistent. So I think that Petrino's got the goods to get rid of Pragnio in at 9,000. I think he's an excellent play.
Yeah, I just can't trust Pacquiao. I can't. I mean, it's kind of amazing that has been given the opportunities that he got after those first 3 fights in the UFC. Next up, we got Cameron Saimon taking on Terrence Mitchell. Cameron is a minus 550 betting favorite, plus 400 for Mitchell, 9,400 for Cameron on DK, $19 on FanDuel, and for Mitchell, he's 6,800 on DK, $10 on FanDuel. And I mentioned this line to Pete before the show. Friends don't let friends put Alaska FC fighters in their DraftKings lineup.
That's all we got to say, right? That's all we got to say. Terrence Mitchell having success within Alaska FC is it's a big red flag, right? He's humongous for the division, and how he tends to have success over a lot of his opponents is by attempting takedowns. And we have seen Cameron Saimon get taken down against Stephen Kozlow and lose minutes and moments. And Kozlow racked up tons of takedowns and control time. But we did see Saimon come back and get a TKO in round 3, scoring 118. I think that Saimon is clearly the more dangerous guy. But if Terrence Mitchell wants to go out there and just shoot takedowns and sandbag them, it's possible, especially at 6,800 and for being so big for the division. But very hard for me to ever back somebody from Alaska FC. So, yeah, it's going to be a Cameron Saimon play, but I'm still going to be sprinkling some Terrence Mitchell exposure simply due to the size and the grappling skill set of Mitchell. Even though I don't think that he's good, I think Saimon will have an answer for everything, and I think Saimon will get him out of there in round 2.
Yeah, I like Cameron in this spot, but definitely do not want to go the Terrence. I will probably X him out. I'll probably uncheck the cruncher.
I'm not doing that this week just because I'm expecting some weird stuff to happen, and I'm confident on some high plays, and then I'm going to get super weird with everything else.
Okay. We got 2 more fights here left to break down. We got Jesus Aguilar taking on Shannon Ross. Shannon Ross, a plus 120 betting underdog, minus 140 for Jesus Aguilar. He's 8,600 on DK, $16 on FanDuel. And for Ross, he's 7,600 on DK, $13 on FanDuel.
I'll tell you what, Jason, I've been flip-flopping all week on the first 2 fights of the night, and I admittedly have struggled. And I really don't know who I'm going to pick in some of these fights, but I was so close to pulling the trigger on Shannon Ross. Experience edge. He's a good striker. He has experience and he has an active style. It's just he's so defensively irresponsible, and that chin is so gone that for the flyweight division, not known for knockouts and finishes, he's been knocked out a significant amount of times for my liking. So it's like, it's a division not known for knockouts, and he's getting knocked out. So, I mean, there's so much damage on his body that even a guy who hasn't been known as a striker, and Jesus Aguilar, can land a shot, drop Shannon Ross, and then lead to a beautiful submission finish, like a club and sub type of thing. And Jesus Aguilar is a guillotine expert. Like, I'm a big guillotine guy. It's one of my best weapons out there, and I appreciate somebody who has a good guillotine. The issue is if you continuously jump for your guillotines, you could be put in bad positions if you are unsuccessful. I think that Jesus Aguilar is at a very interesting ownership for going up against the guy who has question marks surrounding his chin, his durability, and his desire. I just think that there are numerous ways to get Shannon Ross out of there. I really, really wanted to be bullish on Shannon Ross just because of my struggle of finding an underdog. But I'm still going to side with Jesus Aguilar. I'm going to side with him ever so slightly. I think that he picks up a finish over Shannon Ross, but it is flyweight, and a lot of times we see competitive matchups. So if Ross is able to avoid the power shot and avoid leaving his neck out there, he's in a tremendous spot to pick up a decision win.
And this is that fight of the week where neither side is getting, anything much ownership, where you have to look at this and say, okay, maybe this is a way for me to get a little bit different in the field. But my only concern about Aguilar is he doesn't have any knockouts. And if you're going to beat Shannon Ross, I feel like that's how you're going to do it. So that's kind of where I sit there. And then, of course, our opening fight of the night, you got Esteban taking on Kirk. Esteban minus 150 betting favorite, plus 125 for Kirk. 8,500 on DK for Esteban, $15 on FanDuel. And Kirk, he's 7,700 on DK and $14 on FanDuel, Pete.
Yeah, I'm going to be pissed if I'm wrong about this, because I was on Shannon Ross and then on Ribovic, and now I've flip-flopped, and so I'm back in Jesus Aguilar, and I'm slightly leaning towards Camuela Kirk. And hear me out. I don't trust either one of these guys, and I don't trust anybody within the first 2 fights. So I'm going to be having tons of exposure to both sides just because I think it's an interesting leverage spot. Camuela Kirk, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, can't really fault him for not looking like a black belt against Damon Jackson, who is a prolific grappler and very, very strong for the division. So I know a lot of people in recency biases is going to be out there, and you're going to be like, he looked horrible in the grappling situations. Go back and watch Esteban Ribovic's last fight against Loic Rajabov and tell me that he did anything outside of an intermediate level from a grappling and wrestling standpoint, because he looked pretty bad defensively. He was taken down and ragdolled against Loic Rajabov, and he makes a ton of mistakes getting back to his feet. I foresee him getting his back taken. I can see him, getting reversed. He attempts Kimuras from the bottom as kind of like a bailout, as a sweep from the bottom. If anybody was wise enough, they'd step around into an armbar, counter armbar. Camuela Kirk's Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I think, is going to be the difference maker here. And I understand that I'm just leaning towards Camuela Kirk. I'm going to get to both sides because I do think that Ribovic has excellent striking and can knock out Camuela Kirk no problem at all. It's just that, like, Kirk has a great mind and Santino DeFranco there around him. And I do think that if you go back and you watch the film of Ribovic, you're like, we're taking him down and we're taking his back. It's just like, it's a close fight, and I need to get to some underdog. So it's a very, very slight lean towards Camuela Kirk using his jiu-jitsu. He's an okay striker. I don't think that I would recommend him going out there against Ribovic. The one thing that I mentioned with you pre-show that makes me feel horrible about even leaning in Camuela Kirk's direction is that a couple months ago, he fractured his L5 in his back. So, like, I had a rule: if somebody breaks their back, you're not going to back them in their first fight. You know what I mean? So, I'm still going to side slightly with Camuela Kirk, but I hate it. I hate it one way or another, and I'm saying, like, super slight. It's just more so finding an underdog to make my lineups work.
Yeah, as someone who has dealt with back injuries, they suck. I mean,
Right. Dude, like, this was, I forget what the date was. It was like February or March when he posted that about his back. And, like, you fracture your L5, you shouldn't be fighting. But it's almost like, why would Santino allow him to take a fight like this? Unless, you know what I mean? It's like,
yeah.
it's so stupid that there has to be something up. Because if they're really just taking this fight, he's not 100%, he must be dead broke or something. It must be a financial decision.
Yeah, that definitely does play into it. Now, something to know before we get into our straight-up fight picks, Jalin Turner has been fined 20% of his purse. The fight will go forward as a catchweight matchup tomorrow, so just throw that one out there. Our straight-up fight picks, main event, I will go Alexandre Volkanovski.
Yeah, Volkanovski for me.
I'm going to go underdog number 1 in Pantoja.
I'm going to lie with the champ and go Brandon Moreno.
I will go Bobby Knuckles, Robert Whittaker.
Yeah, Robert Whittaker, my guy.
Even though he missed weight, I still like Jalin Turner.
Same, Jalin Turner.
Bo Nickal.
Bo Nickal, unfortunately.
I'll go underdog number 2, and I think this may be more of a hoping he can go out with a win, but I'll go Robbie Lawler.
Same. I'm going to go Robbie Lawler. Too much on the line to go out there and lose to a guy, Niko Price.
I'll go Jack Della Maddalena.
ADM for me as well.
I'll go Yazmin.
I get it. I'm going to side with the underdog and Denise Gomes.
I'm going to go Crute because of the takedown upside.
Okay, I'm going to go Menifield because of the damage on Crute.
Taira.
Yep, Tatsuro Taira for me.
Petrino. Simon. I'm going to go Jesus Aguilar. Don't feel great about it.
Yeah, I'm going to go Aguilar.
And I'm just going to use your rule. Can't go with the broken back guy. Give me Esteban.
I get it, and I'm breaking my rule. I'm going Camuela Kirk, but I understand it.
Let's get some questions from Discord that came in before the show. Tristan said, rank the 9K options and who are the best leverage plays. So I'll go through. So we got 8 options, Pete. I'll go through it. Number 1 for me is Volkanovski. Number 2, I will go Simon. 3, Nickal. 4, Taira. 5, Maddalena. 6, Petrino. 7, Whittaker. And 8, Yazmin.
I think I agree with you. I don't know if I'm as high on Cameron Simon. I mean, I like him a lot. I think I'm with you. I hate Yazmin, and then my second least favorite is Whittaker. But I'm pretty big on Petrino. I think I'd switch Simon and Petrino. I think that Petrino's discount with tremendous upside.
To me, in terms of leverage spots, it would be Yazmin and Whittaker.
Yeah, it's Whittaker for me.
And obviously looking at ownership, that's what that has to do with there. Value plays under 8K on DraftKings. So, I mean, both guys in the main event, co-main event, you got to like them as value plays underneath 8K. Other ones to me, I would throw Plessis in there.
I just noticed we don't have a 78 or 7,900 fighter. You realize that?
Yeah.
That's a big difference for the from 8,000 to 7,700. Like that's uncharted territory. Usually we got fighters that are in close fights. So yeah, I mean for the bottom of the barrel guys, it's gonna be Lawler for me and Denise Gomes.
Which underdog will upset a big favorite? Why do as I look at these big favorites, why does my eyes just immediately go to Josiah Harrell?
I don't think he ain't beating my boy JDM.
I think what if he racks up the first 2 rounds with just grappling him and survives the final 5 minutes?
Yeah, I mean, I would be in agreement with you if he was a welterweight. He's a lightweight. I mean, he's fought at catchweights in the past, but like, it's not like it's a tremendous switch up. It's not like JDM's planning on fighting, I don't know, a striker within the welterweight division, and now he's getting that curveball of a grappler. He's been training for Sean Brady. If Josiah Harrell goes out there and takes him down and has his way with him, Sean Brady could have done the same thing, if not worse.
Yeah. Samuel, appreciate the super chat. Am I going to be on the first fight? In 20 match, yes. Single entry, no. I just don't see myself getting there in a single entry. Favorite core plays. To me, that would be Volkanovski. Would be 1. 2. I mean, I hate to, you're trying to find some value when I'm talking about core plays. Probably Jimmy Crute, even though I don't feel good about it, but I got to find a way to save some salary. But I really love Cameron Simon. I really do.
Yeah, you just hate Alaska FC.
No lies detected.
It's terrible. Like I even went back to watch the product, and it's horrendous. It's pathetic. We got like better fights at the bars than what Alaska FC is putting out there.
Yeah. Let's see here. Do you have some core plays?
I mean, like I'm on Menifield, and it's just that fight's a core play to me. Outside of that, like I'm bigger on Brandon Moreno this week than most people. So it's going to be Moreno and Volkanovski just favoring the champs this week.
Yeah. Let's see here. Highest leverage play at 9K to me. That is Robert Whittaker because of that takedown upside that he does have there. It says, I imagine being such a favorite and high expected scoring fight, favorite underdogs will be necessary to be overweight on some of those picks. I mean, I haven't started constructing lineups, so I'm not sure where I'm going to be overweight on. My guess is I'll probably be around the field on Volkanovski. I might be, I'll probably be co-main event. I'll probably be around the field. I could see myself maybe getting a little more than the field. I'll say someone like a Taira or a Cameron, one of those 2 guys going heavy on in terms of those guys. Favorite captain plays for the captain mode. I think you got to look at either Moreno or Pantoja. I think that a lot of people are going to be going towards that main event. I think co-main event is a place to look at.
Yeah, I mean, if you look box score wise, like Brandon Moreno hasn't done anything spectacular from a DFS standpoint. He's been solid. This could be the breakthrough fight, especially because he's going to need to do something against Pantoja, who's going to be so threatening. So I'm with you from a leverage standpoint, from a value standpoint. It makes sense, and they have 5 rounds to work with. I like flyweights. Never mind 5 rounds.
Top parlay plays. I was trying to put a parlay together the other day, and it's just the problem is you got so many huge favorites. I mean, I would even though I really don't want to parlay props, that's maybe where I would look at some of these bigger underdogs and trying to find a little bit. I mean, I want to say I put a 4-fighter parlay together and I still couldn't even get plus money. I mean,
no, you're probably still sitting at minus 250, 300. It's just,
yeah, it was, I think it was like minus 250, 260, something like that. And, you know, I don't really love that very much there. Top punt plays. Punt play for me. GPPs, I would say, is Plessis. I wouldn't love that for a cash game punt, just because of, I think if he doesn't get a stoppage in the first, second round, he just doesn't win. Other punt plays, maybe Denise Gomes.
yeah, it's Denise Gomes and Robbie Lawler for me.
Yeah. Next up, over under 11.5. Sam, man, you are on some good stuff this morning. Give me under.
Under for me.
Yeah. Let's see
I think we're gonna have
here.
8 finishes.
Yeah. Spencer here in the chat says, who's your favorite guy's MVP and cheap play on FanDuel? In terms of it, and I was mentioning this, Spencer, a little bit earlier on the show, you know, a lot of people are going to be getting to Volk, Nickal, Della, Maddalena. To me, I'm looking at that co-main event. I think that's where you can find some really good value there at MVP. But, you know, in terms of like other guys that I'll look at Cameron Saimon. I mean, you know, I'll keep, saying what I'll say about less FC, but I think he's one. Taira, I think, is another good MVP. Cheap plays over on FanDuel. I do like Pantoja at $12. Don't mind. I mean, Menifield at $13. I think that's some nice value over there on FanDuel.
I got a question for you. What is the most you're comfortable with leaving on the table, salary-wise, on a week like this? I'd probably say no more than $500.
500 was the number. I was thinking 300 to 500. I mean, I find it's going to be very difficult to leave 1,000, 1,200, 1,300 on the table just because of, you know, we have 8,000-9,000 options this week.
That's what I'm saying. Like, for me, I think it's between that 500 and less. I really think that's the number. I mean, if you spend all your salary every week, you're going to be holding hands with duplicated lineups. You know what I mean? So, like, you don't want to necessarily build like that, but I'm okay with leaving a little bit, between like 100 and 500 on the table. I think that's how I'm going to set my rule.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. And if you're using something like a fancy cruncher, you know, and setting that so cruncher isn't trying to get all 50,000. I mean, I expect that when, you know, I put my projections in, and I'm sure it's going to spit me out a lot of Nickal just because of where I see that fight going. But like in a 20 max, I may be 20% Nickal. And it's just because of the salary.
Yeah, Alan says a great point in chat, and it's completely dependent on your contest. So, like, if you're in a 3-entry or a single entry, like, you don't gotta. It's different than if you're in a 20 max or a 150. In a 150, I'm going to get a little bit ballsy and leave more, not being stupid with it. But like, if I only have 20 lineups to work with, I'm probably going to be a little bit safer, and I'm okay with spending all of it.
Yeah. Of course, if you ever have any questions, you can hop in our Discord. Totally free to join. If you want to leave a comment right here on YouTube, myself and Pete will get back to you, as I'm always checking those comments. I'm going to go out tomorrow night to watch these fights. I'm interested to see kind of how the fans react to these fights in comparison to what I saw last month with the Nunes fight, which, no one really cared. Just, at least the place I was at, no one really cared. Everyone cared about the co-main event, Charles Oliveira, Neil Dariush. So I'm really, that's one of the things I always find interesting about going out and watching fights. I know, obviously, you're in a different place in your life than I am right now. So, but it's one of those things I enjoy going out and just kind of seeing how people interact with the fights.
Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of going out and watching fights. Mainly because I want to hear everything, see everything, don't want to be distracted. It's cool to be out and having food and drinks with friends. But like, I really like sitting and, like, if people talk sometimes, it's like, dude, shut up. I'm trying to watch this thing. You know what I mean? I'll sit like an inch from the TV. You know what I mean? Like, I want I'm in. I'm locked in, man. I'm a purist. I'm obsessed with this sport. So, Sam, no, I'm not going to UFC 291. The ticket prices are ridiculous.
Dude, I was talking to somebody last night, and he was trying to go. I think he was trying to go like to the Jacksonville show or something. He goes, dude, man. He goes, I couldn't justify paying that price for the tickets.
That's me, right? That is me. I got stuff going on in my life, and like my buddies and I, we've been saying, well, let's go, let's go, let's go. I can't spend $500 to $800 for the worst seat in the house. I'm just not doing it. I've seen so many fights, Jason. There's no reason for me to do that. Like, like I've seen so many fights, and I've been cage side so much that anything other than a great seat in the house, I feel like I can't justify it. It would be a waste.
Yeah, I know. I mean, and really, if the best seat in the house, which I think is about halfway up the first level, I mean, you're probably going to drop $2,000.
Oh, easy, all day long, and then it's like, oh, it's in, you're going to get a hotel. I just can't do it, man. It's just, yeah. I told my friends, I'm like, all that money that we were going to go do that, let's just throw a banger of a party. Let's have a house party. I'd rather do that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it is, the UFC has priced out a lot of their hardcore fan. They really have.
And I also said to my buddy, I said, the UFC is smoking crack for charging that, and I don't want to support that. Like, I'm the biggest MMA guy. I'll buy all the pay-per-views. Yeah. I don't like how they keep increasing the pay, increasing the price of the pay-per-views. But like, I cannot justify going out and paying that, and I don't want that to set the standard.
Well, unfortunately, it's not the UFC who's changing the pay-per-view price. That's ESPN.
Yeah, ESPN, yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things of, yeah, I mean, the cost of being a MMA fan, like if you take in all the pay-per-views and you've got ESPN Plus and Fight Pass, and yeah, I mean, I know someone was asking earlier at beginning chat about PFL bets and LFA bets. I'll be flat honest, have not even looked at the cards.
I checked out the PFL one. I didn't recognize one name, and I said, I'm not wasting my money. So I looked at every single matchup. I said, I have no idea who these people are. So I am not going to go out there and tell you that I know who they are, and I'm not wasting my time on it. I'd rather just, settle down for the UFC fights this weekend.
We all know you've been doing your prep on Power Slap.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Imagine that. Can you bet on that? Because I hope not.
Yes, you can.
Come on,
and because I saw Dana White post something about it, but then I also, when I was on Prize Picks, getting some prep for the show earlier today, I saw that Prize Picks has props for how many slaps are in each fight.
I hate this.
I'm pulling up DraftKings Sportsbook.
Come on,
just
to,
I'm trying to find the.
It better not be there, Jason.
I'm trying to find there's a web. I'm trying to find the odds. But yeah, I'm just about positive. Let's see here. I'm sure it's under martial arts. I'm guessing maybe MMA.
Please don't ever.
I'm just about pretty convinced that I saw Dana White post something that there were odds up on this.
Oh boy.
I'm
sure in Vegas they do anything. So, but like as far as DraftKings, I better not be able to see that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that they have odds up on this one, but yeah.
Pathetic.
That's the world we live in.
Pathetic.
Dude, they're doing one Power Slap fight during the ceremonial weigh-ins today. I don't care to watch it. I just don't.
I don't either.
I get there's an audience out there for it. I totally get it. But like, if I'm tuning in to watch a weigh-in show, I'm there to watch a weigh-in show. I'm not there to watch two dudes slapping each other and who's going to get knocked out unconscious.
I don't know, bro. Anyways, UFC 290 should be a good one. Excited for the fights. Mm-hmm. And, hit us up in our Discord. Make sure you guys join the community. Before you head out today, hit the like button for us. Get us over 100 likes. Each and every like is appreciated. We appreciate all of you tuning in, whether you're on the podcast platform or on YouTube. And, support the channel. Subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you guys so much. Good luck. Let's win some money.
Of course, we'll be back here next week for the Fight Night card that, off the top of my head, I have no idea what the main event is. I know it's a fight night card. I'm pretty sure it's in the Apex.
I don't know either. I stay on a 1 week basis, bro. I don't know what's going on ever.
Yeah, it's crazy. But that is going to do it for us. As always, we appreciate you tuning in, whether it's on YouTube or the podcast platforms. And we will talk to you next week right here on the Fight HQ podcast.